Go.
Well, juniors, we're looking at some material that you're going to be working on at home. I know it's not easy to do. I also well aware of the fact that many of you get in a hurry and rush through this material, but let me remind you from the beginning that we're trying to keep up and to finish our school year well. So make sure that you do your assignments. They will be graded. They need to be turned in on Wednesday, April 15th at the drop-off date. Make sure you have them done and done well, because that's going to be the basis of determining your grade. We're going to be working for the next week or so in chapters 23 and chapters 24 of your textbook. Chapter 23 deals with the Progressive Era, the first 2 decades of the 20th century. The text emphasizes the presidents and the roles they played and the programs that were developing during this time period. So you want to take note and remember this is this time period called the Progressive Era. Remember the concept of progressive just means the idea of bringing about changes in how our government operates. And so be conscious of that as you see the differences between the earlier eras of history and this particular time period. The Progressive Era is very important because we begin to see the changes that come about. If you can remember, we've already discussed something about the Populist Party and some of the ideas that were coming forth. We're seeing in the first part of the 20th century, many of these ideas becoming putting into place by legislation. So it is an important time period, and it also includes the time period that we'll look at in chapter 24 of World War I. Let me give you and go over the worksheet that I've sent with you. Make sure you understand your assignments. All these assignments, again, will be turned in as a grade, so be sure they're done neatly. Make sure they're well marked by chapter and page numbers so that you get proper credit for all the work that you're doing. I'm not going to be able to ask you a question and ask what you meant and what chapter you were dealing with. You're going to have to be responsible to make it very clear for me. I've also included a study guide that will help you. The study guide must be filled out and turned in as well on Wednesday, April 15th, so be sure and do that. In addition to that, there's a third aspect, and this is primarily for me to understand that you have an understanding of the material that you've been studying in chapters 23 and 24. By the way, you're to do all the readings, of course, and then do the questions at the section reviews as we normally do. Make sure you have done that. But in addition to that, there are some essays, okay? You'll notice the first one here. Choose one of the presidents of the Progressive Era, write a 200-word essay about the president. Include specifically the president's policies and programs that supported the Progressive Era. So what we're looking there is for you to choose one of, and we know there are 3 presidents during this time period, choose one of them that you want to write about. Use the material in your text. If you want to add some material from other sources, you can. But I'm particularly interested in you describing how that president addressed these areas of the progressive movement, okay? And then number 2, I'm giving you a choice. You can choose one of the 3 following essays and write a 200-word essay on one of these as well. And let me just say a word about the essays. When you write a 200-word essay, don't look at it again from the approach that how many words have I written. I know you need to count them, you need to have an idea of what you've written, but discuss the subject. Don't look at the length of it, okay? The choices there for you: number 1, President Wilson's 14 points in the Treaty of Versailles include America's response. Again, this is the end of the war, the end of World War I, and President Wilson greatly wished to see a different world, and he presented these points in order that he might really pursue world peace. And you have to certainly respect him as a man who desired to see world peace. In many ways, though, he was somewhat naive. And so when I put that include America's response, We're aware of the fact that many of his ideas, even the ones that were accepted and used in the Treaty of Versailles, were not always acceptable by the American public. So kind of, if you choose that one, make sure you include that. Number two, discuss the events that led America into World War I, including the impact of America's involvement and the adjustments that the war brought to American lives. So that essay would have to do with the groundwork, you might say, that led to the United States entering World War II in April of 1917. The third essay discussed the causes that brought about World War I, include the political, social, and philosophical influences. And your text begins with that here in chapter 24. It discusses problems that date back years. And remember, things always begin with philosophy. It's what people think. It's the ideas that they have, and it's the policies that they develop that eventually become the programs that we see. So when you think about the World War I, it just didn't happen overnight. It happened over a long period of time, and there were many reasons and causes for it. You'll see that if you read and study your text. You're to choose one of those three. So you're going to turn in two topics, one dealing with chapter 23 and then one dealing with chapter 24. Make sure when you do your essays that I can understand which one you're doing. I know some of you don't like to write essays, but I really need this in order that I can evaluate how well you have studied from the text material.